The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's yet another edition of The Big Issue. And of course, I hope you had a very wonderful weekend. As usual, I'm your regular host, and with me here in the studio are in-house analysts. We have Silas Ezegugu and Chibuzo Okaibe.
Thank you.
Well, without taking much of your time, because it seems we are behind schedule, the big issue of the day is the 2023 presidency. As Tinubu rejects, disowns his political godson, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. Well, today the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, declared his intention to contest the 2023 presidential race. And of course, before doing that, the Vice President met with governors of the All Progressives Congress in his Aguda house at the presidential villa. And of course, barely 24 hours after meeting with the APC governors, his political godfather, former governor of Lagos State, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, met with the APC governors at the KB's Governor's Lodge. And of course, the meeting was hosted by the chairman of the Progressives Governors Forum, Atiku Bagudu. After the meeting behind closed doors with the APC governors, Tinubu addressed journalists. And when asked how he felt that his political godson has declared to contest the APC presidential ticket against him, Tinubu said he does not think he has a son grown up enough to declare for such a position of the presidency. Well, the politics of 2023 is hotting up, and of course, political fireworks have begun in earnest in the governing All Progressives Congress. Well, Chibuzo, let's quickly look at Tinubu's position on Osinbajo declaring for the presidency. One would have expected that Tinubu would statementally encourage the idea of the vice president declaring and saying that it's all for the good of democracy, because in the United States we have a situation where vice presidents to presidents in that country where we borrowed our own system of government, the presidential system, are always given the first right of refusal. Bill Clinton, when he was leaving office, Al Gore was given, his deputy, the vice president, was given the right of first refusal. And that is why he contested for the vice president. And when Obama was leaving, Joe Biden was given the right of first refusal to contest, although he did not, because he lost his son then. That was why Hillary Clinton took over. What makes Tinubu think that it would be a crime if Vice Osinbajo, who is a vice president, is given the right of first refusal to contest the 2023 presidency?
I'm not sure that Tinubu is really against the concept of Osinbajo getting the right of first refusal.
But he said that he does not have a son that's grown up enough to contest the presidency.
But
that statement is witty.
It's a weighty statement, but it's different from saying, I don't think this man deserves to have the right of first refusal. I think there are two different concepts. Interestingly, the way he has put it has clearly shown that this is going to be a very touchy engagement. Both camps are going to have very touchy engagement. The question was quite clear, contextual. It was about Osinbajo's declaration, and the response too was quite a tongue-in-cheek response. But of course, for pundits who understand the political language and the messaging, it was clear he was passing a message across to the vice president. We are going to be in for some interesting time. How much this will divide, because the governors are already being pulled in different directions at the moment. That's another interesting fallout of this so far.
Of course.
So, well, how would the governors reach their tent, and what ripple effect that will have on the party are things to look out for. But most important of all of these stakeholders is where does Buhari, where does Buhari's heart lie? Wherever it lies, or wherever it tilts towards, you can be sure you most likely have the upper hand at the end of the day.
Thank you, Chibuzo. Silence, you heard what Chibuzo said, and of course, you heard the question I threw in the first place. And he said that there are two different things for Tinubu to disown his own political gods. Because you know that Osinbajo was Commissioner, Attorney General of Lagos State, Commissioner for Justice under Tinubu.
Yes.
And then most Nigerians have this firm belief that it was Tinubu that made Osinbajo politically. But from his reaction when he was asked about Osinbajo's declaration for the 2023 presidency, he said he doesn't have a political god. He didn't even say God, he does not have a grown-up son. A son that's grown enough to declare for such a position. That shows competence. He's saying that I don't think he has a son that is competent enough, that is qualified enough, grown up. Let's look at that. That is the context. One will now ask between Osinbajo, who has worked in the presidential villa for 8 years and has represented the president in different forums, and then look at Tinubu, who is now contesting the president in his capacity as a former governor. Who among them should we have seen is grown up? And let me put it this way, because when I say you know understand that
Yeah.
grown up.
No, it's I just want to say something. Say it's okay, tongue in cheek. Okay. I don't know Tinubu's children, other children. You know, the difference Tinubu is as old as he, and he had children at ages that older people. You should have children that are
Above
40,
35 years, which is
in their
supposed to be
40s. So, and then I've seen some 13K old people declaring for such position. So, like I said, I don't know his children. I don't know those who have political concerns. I don't know if any of his children have contested for anything. Even though there are some reports in the graveyard that he had a child that's up to 61 years. So the question arises is, if that woman is actually daughter, how old was Tinubu in Gaza? But that's
another topic for altogether.
No, so she was just something important that they had drawn the line that this party is going to fight to finish. And Tinubu,
Very touchy one.
yes, and Tinubu had even said before that he was ready to fight death. And you remember when Tinubu jumped to the guy's ambition was when there was some hype around Asiwaju. Some people who know around the country to convert support
For him.
So he said, no, I don't want to pretend about this one. He
Mm.
went straight to Buhari and said, I want to take over your seat.
Mm.
Finish. And they asked him, the kingmaker not to go. He said that others who said that the kingmaker cannot come to him.
And he said the presidency had been his lifelong ambition.
Ambition. So, and later I say he was going to fight death and all that. So, he is somebody that's not going to take no for an answer. And some voter watchers in the past were saying that it's likely that Ethiopia will not have the cause today. It's a godfather. Okay. And it took a while for him to decide to make his own. Other people have been announcing their own. It's most of that one of the last people that said they want to run for the presidency. He must have taken time to study the grounds, study the chances, make consultations, maybe possibly get some people from the Villa, past the Villa as well, before stepping out. Because politically, he doesn't have the structures that Tinubu has. Okay? But, like I've seen with the APC chairmanship election, she also said it correctly. Here, where the pendulum will swing, where the president's heart is. That's also unfortunate. We are in the system where we operate, where the man at the top, whatever he says goes. It shouldn't be so. It should not be so. There should be people should to have their mind and make up their minds and decide what they want. This idea of sheepishly following one person, it's not really good for our democracy. There should people should have the opinion, not to wait and see until the president says this person. The president can just wake up and get somebody from nowhere, knowing that whatever he says, he will say true. You're just gonna pick somebody from nowhere and say that this is the person I want. Just like the person just did in Nigeria with Yar'Adua. Just gonna put it from somewhere. Who was later on to have seen that the guy was very ill. And he put him on Nigeria, and that's why you see that that police struggled and struggled to set until life. So saying it's not my saying don't have a son that's grown to him. Um, it has a lot of undertone there. It shows somebody who is not very happy at just declaration. And also, this one was saying that you have been more statement by saying, if I put somebody at this level, that's what the council for me. That I put somebody at the level of buying good luck to him, whoever God chooses to do the country, all well and good. That is what the statesman should have
It's
gone with
expected to do.
Say, look, own him. This is my son. I played a role in his life, and I'm happy that he has grown to become this good. Okay, so let us go for it. Whoever goes, this is all well and good. Everything for the interest of Nigeria. But it's hard to tactical disowning by saying he doesn't have a son that's tactical disowning man. But all are good. He has a right to his own personal opinion, and everybody who is listening to him knows exactly where he stands.
Well, I think it would be very necessary for us to take a short break at this point in time because at least we just have to allow our viewers the time to actually come up with very constructive points to make on the big issue. And of course, as we come back, we're expecting that they will begin to send in their contributions by their way of comment to actually shape the conversation on the big issue. Don't go offline. We'll be back in a short while.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Welcome back. We are still on the big issue in Leadership Podcast. And of course, the big issue of the day is the 2023 presidency and Tinubu's rejection or disowning of his political godson, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. Well, as we were talking, Tuesday, yesterday at the Samuda House, at the presidential villa, Osinbajo met with governors of the APC. I think they said there were 12 in numbers. And barely 24 hours to that, Tinubu met with the same APC governors at KB Governors Lodge. The chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum and governor of KB State, Atiku Bagudu, hosted that meeting in the KB Governors Lodge. And I think the number of governors that attended the meeting with Tinubu was said to be 14. What does that imply? Does that show a sign of who has the upper hand in the party, or it was just a coincidence? To your own thinking.
It could be interpreted that way. There will be a number of ways to interpret one scenario, particularly when it becomes a political situation. Well, there could have been reasons why more people didn't attend yesterday's meeting. Might not be privy to whether they sent in apologies for not attending or not.
Because I think that question was just a very tactical one. Because even from what the feelers we got through was that Kwara State Governor was away, unavoidably absent yesterday, but today he had to rush into town. And,
exactly. So there's no telling as to whether they deliberately stayed away from Osinbajo's meeting, or they just needed to put up a showing and put up a showing of solidarity with Asiwaju. So that was why I said it could be interpreted in different ways. But whichever thing is that the optics that we saw, that we've seen today so far, clearly gives Tinubu the edge with regards to numbers. But whether those numbers will translate to delegates is another matter, because like I did say, and like a lot of people have said, not just me now, what will determine who emerges rather to be where the villa swings. So whether or not these governors are meeting Tinubu or they're meeting Osinbajo and all of that, the last might not be here yet, because I still do think that the villa would, in some way or in a lot of ways, determine where the governors will take a position. We saw that play out with the National Convention, where at some point they were all called in, and how difficult it is to look a commander-in-chief in the context of Nigeria in the eye and say no. Of course, it's usually very difficult to get into the villa. The villa, the way you've covered the villa for a long time. The way the villa is built, just like any palace, there's an intimidating posture to it, of course. So by the time you step into that place and you're stripped of all your paraphernalia of office as a governor, you step in and you are in a different man's territory. Of course, it's difficult to go in there and come back. So
the same.
That was why I think whatever the governors are doing now is expected of them. Kudos to them. At least they are trying to see how they can balance, by
making sure that
and also attending.
Not from them that
a
position is being taken. Yes.
Yeah, on one side, but it also shows how influential the governors are. I think that is the whole essence of this whole engagement. So, as much as the president will play a major role, we are also going to see the governors, maybe not as influential as the president, but they'll also be very key to how this whole process pans out.
Because they are the ones bringing the delegates.
Exactly. So if they keep a united front, and they can even play a much more bigger role of being stabilizers. They can play a bigger role of being stabilizers. But it depends too on how split in the middle they have become up between these two.
Thank you, Chibozo. You've just spoken something here. You say whatever the case is, Aso Rock holds the east. Of course, we know that is the seat of power. And then we talk of incumbency. And we know very well that the man whose position is being contested is the man who has a serious say in who succeeds him. Now, let's come down. You've just brought us to one important aspect of this very issue, on the big issue, which has to do with something that is unprecedented in the history of this country, where we all know very well that even at state level, local government level, as a local government chairman, your deputy, who is a vice chairman, they not look at you in the face and say, I want to take over your seat. Even at state levels, governors don't even find it funny to say they are leaving office. They will hand over, they will allow their deputies to succeed him. And then we saw the situation between Obasanjo, former president Obasanjo, and his erstwhile deputy, former vice president Atiku Abubakar. It was talk of war. When Yar'Adua Gradua's ill health incapacitated him. We know how the cabals in Azuro tried as much as possible to stop Jonathan from acting as president or even being made the substantive president. Osinbajo Silas coming out to declare his intention to run. Most Nigerians believe that that wouldn't have been without the consent of his boss. You know, it is very rare in this part of the globe, especially Nigeria.
Well, yeah.
Do you
Well,
think
the
Osinbajo would have
experience-
just done this declaration without getting the blessings of his
No, you know,
principal,
from the
the
media
president?
reports, you know, the president is supposed to be a father figure. Even when Tinubu went to tell him, he didn't bless him. Omar, he went and
Kogi
told him.
State, yes.
Yeah, so whoever goes to tell him, say, go ahead and try your best. So it's possible that Asiwaju also met him and told him, say, go ahead. Okay. Nobody can now say what he told, what he discussed.
Oh, sorry to cut you short. Why am I saying this is because President Buhari made Nigerians know that he has an anointed candidate.
Yes,
And he said he will not reveal.
Yeah.
But if he does
I was
that,
coming to that.
Who,
I'll go to that because it doesn't seem to be Osinbajo was talking about that. It didn't seem to be referring to Osinbajo.
and I'm not sure
So who was he referring
I am not even sure he seemed to be referring to Tinubu.
Yeah.
Or any of
So
these
who
guys.
was he
So
referring
who was he
to? This
referring
person, they will, it could be a soldier. They will kill him if I say who he is. But we feel that the powers that be in APC.
But you ruled him out.
But you know, soldier is already protected. See, it's not already protected by the paraphernalia of the presidency to be cast in this light of if I say this person, they will extinguish him. So I'm thinking that Buhari may just play a joker. All these people, all who are struggling, Yaya Bello, the governor of Ekiti State, they're not speaking his mind, but you should say, and these two, he may just bring it one and bring one dark horse from somewhere.
The silence agree with me that
And-
no matter what, Buhari will be very conscious about who succeeds him and he will have a preference.
He said he has a preference, but if you mention the person, they will kill him.
You say he was just playing a joker.
Who will kill him?
He said they will kill him.
I know. I'm just trying.
Maybe we should ask the president who is the person that will kill him.
Exactly.
But, sorry to cut you short, Silas. Sorry to cut you short. When you hear what the way people reply to a question about his political godson contesting, didn't you see how malicious his response was?
I wouldn't really say it's malicious.
I'm not saying Osinbajo is Buhari's anointed
I
candidate.
wouldn't really say the comment is malicious to the extent that it would amount to hurting him in any way.
We know that.
Physically, like the president is trying to portray.
Mm.
Oh, if I mention this person, they are going to kill.
I think that's why Silas is believing that,
that
he was
was-
a joker. He was
That was stretching the
Mm.
stretching the conversation, or do I say that was
a joke taken too far.
trivializing the situation?
Yes.
The president ought not to have. But that's a discussion for another day.
idea, of course.
But in any case, I think two things are clear.
Mm.
Tinubu has a right to declare. Osinbajo has a right to declare. They both should be able to tell their party members, this is why I think I should be president. They should contest and battle at the level of ideas and at the level of what they think they can bring to
the table for Nigeria.
one for the party, two for Nigerians. But that is the norm actually. That ought to be the norm. But we know how party positions are won and lost in Nigeria. Most times it's about patronage. It's about goodwill. It's about network. It's about old networks and all of that. So I think this is one of those times where we will see a lot of we would expect a lot of political mastery,
Of course.
on how to manage this situation. Because if it is not gone about the right way, you can be sure that it's going to cause a lot of bias within the southwest APC to start with. Because it will get to a point where people need to make decisions and take sides. It will get to that point, definitely. Whether they take sides based on acrimony or based on an understanding of this is just a competition that has to happen, and somebody, I think, got a better idea and I went with it. That is the reason why I took this decision. I think that is what we want to see.
All right, Silas, let me just lump these two points for you to look at critically. First of all, We're talking of Osinbajo declaring to contest from the southwest. And then we are also talking of Tinubu declaring to contest. What is the implication of these two heavyweights contesting the presidency from the southwest on when it has to do with the cohesion of that zone? You know, they used to say the southeast don't speak with one voice, although that might not be true. Now we've just seen where the southwest is posed with a very major challenge, where two heavyweights from that zone are coming out to contest. And most Nigerians believe that the situation will divide the zone. You understand? Yes, that was it. And so, what are the implications of these two heavyweights from that zone? And of course, now Chibuzo talks of networks. Although Osinbajo, I think when he declared his asset, he was talking about 70 billion naira. Sure.
100 million.
Is it 100 million? Because
There was a lawyer.
There was a lawyer, yes.
Yeah, not really an interest.
Mm.
There was not a governor.
Imagine 100 million.
Commission.
So now, if Osinbajo does not,
I had a long time then. Vice president for 8 days afterwards. So.
Yes. So if Osinbajo,
but you also know elections. When it comes to elections, people donate time.
Yes.
If they see that that's the concept of network. If they see that you have the capacity to win, the billions will come from everywhere. Because it will be considered as a bankable candidate. That's why we have bankable candidates and candidates that are just making up the numbers.
Okay, Silas, that is, you heard Chibuzo now. Okay, now let's assume now that if Osinbajo does not have Buhari's backing, can he stand Tinubu dollar for dollar and naira for naira in the presidential race? Because at the end of the day, we're talking of saying the donations should depend on the banking. Perhaps. Banking, they will be banking on a candidate that they feel.
Yes. But if you put it this way, to be as if you are bringing this down to a buy and sell commodity. You understand?
But you know, listen,
they'll be selling an idea.
You cannot rule out money politics in Nigeria.
They'll be merchandising what they themselves. Is an advertisement.
You know, you cannot rule out money politics in Nigeria.
You know those who don't have as much watches as some other people and they still want.
Because they are bankable, they are sellable.
Yeah. So I don't think that when it comes to who wins the question of watches, I think the candidates' credentials is what we ought to look at. And then two is that just what discount the fire me. I don't believe he's also someone who has an ambition.
Yeah.
We've not seen the last of the people from the southwest. So the way to happen is that it will put them, if they are candidate come from the east too, and they come out with one voice, those other ones, they might share their votes and it will not work for them. And people will say, okay, look, it was our first election, let's go somewhere else. No, see, the way politics works in Nigeria, it can just be a funny thing. It's okay, this is our first election, we don't country between Tinubu and this guy, okay, let's just go and that place so that the peace will remain. It can happen. It has happened. That happened in the past too. So I thought the same. I think that in the days to come, this contest will start to take proper shape. Well, we now know how the thing developing. But I think that many people who are speaking in public then have more confidence in having Asiwaju there. As someone who doesn't come too much of a candidate. But those people see.
In other words,
those people are not the ones that will vote in the primary election. So it's a party affair. It's what happens when they come from the party. So they also have to, in choosing again, they also have to keep an eye on what Nigerians
of money politics.
They have to think. They have to, if they choose, they also keep an eye on what the public thinking about a candidate. Because if you do finish a primary election and bring a candidate that most Nigerians will say, no, then you have,
You don't like this one.
you have shot yourself in the foot. So you have to have an eye on who the candidate will win at the general election. That's what they were thinking about. Not who can match each other in that primary one. That one is just one contest. But the bigger contest is the general election.
Well, that is the much we can take for today's edition of the big issue. Well, the political atmosphere is charged, like cannons overcharged with double cracks. And of course, with Vice President Osinbajo declaring today to contest the 2023 presidency, political fireworks have begun in earnest. And as events unfold, we'll be keeping you tab on what is actually happening in the country's political landscape. Thank you for keeping tab with us. And of course, I'll thank our in-house analysts for actually addressing the big issue the way it had to be. Join us same time tomorrow for another edition of this program. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.